This is reflection number 5 in our Table Talk series based on the Gospel of Mark. Today we're looking at Mark chapter 3, verses 1 through 6. When you look at the life of Jesus, you realize that there were people who were curious and wanted to be near Jesus, but there were also those who didn't like him, that they were trying to catch him, to accuse him of blasphemy, accuse him of all kinds of things, and it was often the religious leaders. In this section of Mark 3, you see that Jesus enters into a synagogue, and there's a man with a withered hand. And you would think that this is no big deal, but you realize in this moment that it's going to be a confrontation between Jesus and the religious leaders. See, this was the Sabbath. It was in a synagogue, which was the stronghold of the religious leaders. It was their safe place. It was their place where they defined how God could work and what God would do on particular days and particular locations. And it's an interesting moment to me because in some ways they have really found themselves in a place where they said, this is who God is and how God works. So they put him in this box. And I thought about that a little bit in my own life because in my early 20s I had put God in a box. I had gotten to myself to a place in my faith journey where I had thought I knew God and how God would work and how God was to move and work in my life and in other people's lives. And it kind of came through convictions about certain things that at the end of the day I realized I wasn't willing to die for. Here's what I mean by that. I had someone very, very close to me. We were in conversation about some of the things that I was willing to die for at the time, and then he literally says, "Ron, will you die for these things? What are you willing to die for?" And it stepped me back a little bit because I began to realize as I look at the big picture of how God works and who God is, and I realized that there's only really one significant thing that I'm willing to die for, and that is the power of who Jesus is and what he came to do in his death, burial, and resurrection. And just to be clear, I don't want you to think that it's not important to have convictions and beliefs and truths to build your life on. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I'm looking at is more through the lens of how we perceive or think God is to work and move in this world in which we live in. The religious leaders in this moment, they were there for one purpose, and that was to catch Jesus doing something that they believed he shouldn't do on the Sabbath, and that was to heal this man. And when Jesus says to the man, "Come here, reach out your hand," there's this interaction with the religious leaders. He says, "Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm, to save life or to kill?" They don't know what to do because all of a sudden they're caught in the crossroads. If we say this, then we're going to contradict ourselves. If we're going to say that, we're going to put ourselves in a pinch. And in this moment, Jesus reveals the wonder and the awe of who God is and what he came to do. See, I wonder how many of us have put God in a box. And the realization is that we need to allow God to do what he needs to do, and we can't put those restrictions on him in a way that eliminates our ability to see the work that he wants to do. I wonder if today, just in our short little reflection on this, is that you just take some time and just say, I've put God in a box here, I've put God in a box there, by a particular belief system that maybe is not freeing, but is more binding. I love this little section because the man reaches out his hand and it's recorded for us that he is restored. He's healed. God did a powerful work. Now the outcome of this, as you look at verse 6, the Pharisees went immediately. They didn't hesitate. They went and they drew a council together to figure out how to destroy Jesus. There's an important learning in this for us as we begin to see and understand how faith and the dynamic of God working in our lives and through our lives is a beautiful thing.